Welcome to the I Made a podcast where we hear from podcasters about the wisdom that they learned since starting their own podcast so you can do the same. And now here's your host, Chris Curry.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome into another episode of I Made a Podcast, where I'm here to help you start your podcast. And if you're a new podcaster or just getting into the game, this is the very best place for you to learn everything that you need to learn about podcasting. I interview podcasters far and wide and hear their story of how they started their podcast. We can all learn the tips and tricks that they have used in their podcast, and we can apply them into our own podcast so that we all can get better at podcasting and maybe start to get some traction with the things that we've been working on in our podcast. So if you are a podcaster, if you just started out, or if you're thinking about starting, you are in the absolute best place right now. Now, today is a solo episode. I'm going to show you or tell you, if you're listening to this, what you need to do if you are starting a podcast and you don't know the process, what mic you should buy, what software you should use. Or my big thing that I'm pushing for everyone getting into podcasting is how can you do this for as little money as possible? So I'm going to show you some things where you can use for free or spend very limited amount of money so that you can get into the podcasting game, start to get your message out there so it impacts lives, it changes people's direction, and you can educate, teach, or just entertain people with your podcast. And I'm going to teach you how to do it for as little money as possible. And that's what we're going to go over in this episode right now. So in this episode, I'm going to be showing you some things. So if you're not on YouTube right now, I would encourage you to go onto the YouTube and watch this video. But you can listen to it right now. I'll try my best to explain it, but I'm going to show you some things, show you some screenshots so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about in this episode. But if you're just listening to it right now, just listen to it. And then afterwards, you can go onto YouTube and watch the video and you can see the things that I'm talking about. So before I get into this episode, if you've listened to the podcast before, you know I've talked about my podcasting cheat sheet. So a lot of the tools that I am going to talk about in this episode are on my cheat sheet. And I'm going to encourage you to download it. It's in the description. All you need to do is click on the link, join the mailing list, and then you'll have access to the cheat sheet. Every time I find out new tools or new resources for podcasters, I add it onto the list. And again, my goal is to put as many resources as I can on that list that are free or have a free component to them so that you can actually see the benefit using some of these tools without actually spending any money. And that's what I've been doing. For my podcast that I produce and also my clients' podcast, I spend very little money. I do put some time and effort into it, but I spend very little money to create a podcast. And you can too. You don't have to sink a lot of money into a podcast in order to have a great sounding podcast. So without any further ado, let's get into this episode right now. So when we're first talking about podcasting, the very first thing that most people start with is their microphone, right? So what type of microphone should you get? Now, you can spend a lot of money and get one of the best sounding microphones out there, but it's not necessary. I've actually spoken to podcasters who use their cell phone to produce their podcast and to record their audio. And so it's absolutely possible for you to use your cell phone as a microphone and record your podcast using some of the free audio recording apps on your cell phone. But what am I using for my podcast? So this microphone right here is the Rode PodMic. Let me get this is what it is right here. The Rode PodMic. This is what I'm using. Now, I only got this microphone this past January, so I've been using another mic before. It was the Audio-Technica AT2020, and the reason why I had that microphone is because I was in audio music production. So I had a lot of audio equipment, and as you'll see as I go through the rest of my stuff here, so it was easy for me to transition into podcasting. But this is the microphone that I'm using now, the Rode PodMic. It is a dynamic microphone, so it is, to put it in a simple sense, it is better at capturing my voice as I'm speaking into it versus a lot of the room noise. Now, in this room that I'm in, it's fairly big, very echoey, but you won't hear it right now because of the microphone and some of the other stuff that I'll share with you a little bit later. The other microphone that I had was a condenser microphone. It's good for vocals and when you're doing audio recording, but it was not ideal for podcasting because it was picking up a lot more room noise and less of my voice. So that's why I switched to using this microphone, the Rode PodMic, which is a dynamic microphone. So if you're starting out, this is one thing that you're going to have to do. Go on to Amazon or wherever you can get this mic, and I'll put links. It's on my cheat sheet. So you can go get the cheat sheet and you'll be able to get a link to this microphone. But go on to Amazon, go online, check the reviews for some of the microphones that you see for podcasting, and make sure that it's a dynamic microphone, right? Because those are the best. That's the best type of microphone that you can get for podcasting. Price ranges between, you could get one for $50 or you can get one for maybe like a few $100s. The Rode PodMic is about $150. So it's kind of middle of the road in terms of the cost. So it's not a lot of money. You can get it and use it, and it will give you great sound and audio. As you can tell right now, as I'm recording this episode with this microphone. I've been doing it the entire podcast. I've used this microphone. Now, one important thing that you need to realize when you're getting this microphone is the type of connection that it goes into your computer with. If you get a microphone that connects straight into your computer through USB, you don't have any problem. The audio quality might be a little bit less if you use a USB microphone versus an XLR microphone. But if you use an XLR microphone, you're going to have to get some other equipment in order to change that analog signal into a digital signal so that you can have it into your computer. Now, because I mentioned before, I used to do audio music production. I had a lot of equipment. So right here is my interface that I have used. It's the Pro Tool M Audio interface box. I've had this for maybe 15 years, maybe even more than that. But this is what I use. So my microphone is an XLR microphone, and it's plugged into my interface. And I also have a phantom power supply that powers this microphone. So it's all connected. And then from there, it goes straight into my laptop. So if you're getting an XLR microphone, you need an interface. But if you get a USB powered microphone, you can plug it directly into your laptop, and you just need to download the audio drivers on your laptop in order to use that microphone to record your podcast. Now, going back to the microphone, what I have here is a boom mic. Again, I've had this for a very long time. It's very inexpensive. I think I paid maybe like $20 for it, and it does the job. Most of the microphones that you get nowadays might actually come with a stand where you can put it on your desk, or it comes with a boom mic like this. But this just helps you to hold the mic so your hands can be free in case you need to hold any paper and read off anything while you're doing your podcast. And it also helps to keep the microphone off your desk so that if you hit your desk or anything, the vibration doesn't get into your audio. Now, one key thing that I don't think you can see right now as I look at this microphone is the windscreen. So this microphone has this little black spongy thing on it, and it's a windscreen. It is used to prevent the microphone your audio from picking up explosives. Explosives are those sounds that sound like p and s. The windscreen stops those sounds from getting into your recording because it doesn't sound too good if you have a lot of those things on your podcast. You can get a windscreen like this one that goes over the microphone, and there's other ones as well. There's this one that is like a little shield that goes over the microphone, and then you speak into this part of the microphone. And then there's the classic one, which is like a little circle with it's like a pop filter. I think they call this one. And it just goes in between your mouth and the microphone, again, to stop those explosives from hitting the diaphragm inside of the microphone. The diaphragm is what collects the sound and sends it into your computer. That's what's inside the microphone, collecting all of the audio that you are, when you're speaking, it's collecting all of that information, all of that audio, everything that it can hear, and it's sending it into your computer. And if the explosives from your breath, from your voice hit it, it gives that distortion and it doesn't sound good. So this is one thing that is absolutely necessary if you want to have a good sounding podcast. Now, to move into the recording aspect of it, though, let's talk about some free software that you can download right now. And it's really easy to use. And like I said, it's free and it's on my cheat sheet as well. It's called Audacity. You may have heard of this software before. It's free audio podcasting software that you can use. You can go onto the website. I'll put a link to it's on my cheat sheet. So you can go to the cheat sheet, download it. And this software is really simple to use. You can download it, set it up real quick, plug in your USB microphone into your computer, and then record directly into Audacity. So Audacity is really simple. All that you need to do is when you have your session, you open it up, you just hit the record button right up top here, and then it just starts to record. The waveform comes across the screen as you're recording, and this is basically me recording this episode right now. So if you want to start a podcast, this is all you need to do. Just go into Audacity, hit the record button, and then away you go. Now, after you're finished, if you need to edit this in any way, you can just use the tools at the top of the screen here, and you can cut things out if you need to edit anything, and it automatically adjusts the length of your audio. And if you need to add music or any other audio tracks to this file, all you need to do is drag and drop it from the audio file into Audacity, and then you can reposition it by grabbing the top here of the audio file where it says the name of it, and you just drag it according to the position that it needs to be. And once you finish this, you put it in order in the sequence that you want it to play in, and then you just need to go up here to File, hit Export, and then you export it from Audacity into the folder that you want it to be saved as, and then you can change the file format to MP3, and you're done. And then you have a podcast that is finished from start to finish. Now, before you export it, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you listen to it so that all of the levels are right, that you don't need to adjust the volume for anything. So on the left-hand side of each audio track, there is a slider here where you can adjust the gain. You could increase the decibel level so that track will be louder or quieter, depending on how it sounds compared to the other tracks that you have on Audacity. Now, once you have finished your audio, as I mentioned before, I am in a really big room. It's kind of echoey, but you're not going to hear it because there's a lot of tools that are out there that you can use to clean up the background noise. Now, there's a lot of things that you might need to pay for. I know tools like Descript. They have something where they can give you studio sound where you can change it and adjust the percentage or the intensity of that studio sound. But there's also a platform called Auphonic. Now, this is an amazing program. This program can actually remove background noises from your podcast. So in this room right now, if an airplane decides to fly over my house, or if the fire engine goes up and down the street and it gets in the audio, or if you live in a noisy neighborhood, or maybe your dog starts barking or something in the background while you're recording, you can take that audio file and upload it into Auphonic here, and it will clean up all of the background noise and remove everything except your voice from the audio. And also, if there's an echo in a room, it will remove all of that for you. So you will have that clean, crisp studio sound. And the thing about this program is it gives you 2 hours free processing every month. So if you have a podcast that's 15 minutes every episode once a week, or if it's like half an hour every week, for 1 month, you can use this program, Auphonic, and you can use up your 2 hours free and have a beautiful sounding podcast. And this software is really simple. All you need to do is take your audio file, you drop it into Auphonic here, you select the option that you want, whether it's noise reduction, or if you want to do automatic leveling. So if you're interviewing someone and their levels are different from your levels, your voice levels, you put it into this program, you hit the processor, and it will balance out all of the levels. This is remarkable software. I would encourage you to try it if you have a podcast and you want to get the best sounding audio. It was a life changer for me when it comes to podcasting, because there's been many times where I've interviewed someone or I've recorded audio and I needed to put it through this software, and it was a game changer. So Auphonic is your go-to when it comes to cleaning up your audio so that you can have a great sounding podcast. Now, once you put your audio through Auphonic and then you download the finished file, you can put it back into Audacity and adjust it according to where it should be in the sequence of your podcast. So your music intro would go on one section. You can put your audio that you got from Auphonic with your podcast episode of you speaking after that, and then your outro after that, right? And then you export that entire segment of your podcast from start to finish. And now you have your podcast episode. You have one MP3 episode of your podcast. So now you can take that episode and you upload it to your podcasting host. Now, there's a lot of podcasting hosts out there. There's a lot of good ones out there, and there's some other ones that you will need to pay for, but pretty much they do the same thing. But if you know me and the types of things that I talk about on I Made a Podcast, I want you to be able to do it for free. So there's a platform called Buzzsprout. Now, it's not a completely free platform, but they do have a free portion that if you have a podcast, they allow you up to 2 hours, I believe, of free podcast hosting every single month. So if you have like a half-hour podcast or a 20-minute podcast once a week, you can use Buzzsprout and you won't have to pay any money out of your pocket in order to host your podcast there. But what I use is Spotify for podcasters because it's completely free, regardless of the length of your podcast, at least at the time of this recording. Now, keep in mind that these platforms can change their pricing platforms or their pricing strategies at any time. So by the time of this is recording, all of these things are free, but they can change it down the line. And I'm sorry if they do, but try to get in right now if it's free, right? So I use Spotify for podcasters because there are no limits with regards to how much audio you can upload every single month, and it's free. So I use Spotify for podcasters. I love the customer service with them. And it's a fairly simple platform to use. And they have a mobile app as well. So you can get your stats or do any updates or uploads on your phone if you need to. And once you upload your episode, the MP3 file up into the podcast and host, you put your episode title, your description, you schedule it for the date and the time that it wants to come out. And then that's it. You're done. Your podcast is now alive. It is out there for the world to consume. Now, if you want to have a video podcast, right? So if you could use Audacity, that's strictly audio. But if you want to have a video podcast, one of the platforms that I use is called CapCut. It's free. And you can start to use it immediately. Just download it off their website. You can download the desktop app and you can have access to it and use it and have a lot of great tools to edit your podcast, your video podcast. They have transcriptions that you can transcribe your audio, captions. You can make shorts on CapCut. Sometimes, I believe on the Pro plan where you have to pay, it's a little bit easier and they give you a little bit more features. But you could use CapCut to do noise reduction, to do audio leveling, but you could use it to do a lot of these things directly into CapCut if you have a video podcast. So you can do all your editing of the video and the audio at the same time and add your different tracks for your music intro, your outro, and anything else that you want to add into that episode. You can use CapCut to do it. And again, it's free. But there is also a pro level where if you use the pro level, you have access to more tools that they can give you to help give you better sound and audio or more visual effects or more caption effects or whatnot. But you can absolutely have a great sounding video podcast, a great watchable video podcast through using the free version of CapCut. So I would encourage you to try that as well. One of the other tools that is out there is Descript. Now, they also have a free portion of their platform that you can sign up for. Now, it's a video editing tool, and they actually have a transcription service where you can edit the video of your podcast like a document by going through the transcripts and remove filler words and doing all these things. So that is Descript. I also use that. But again, it gives you a limited amount of upload time every single month. So if you think you might exceed it, you might want to pay for it because it's a really good tool. But I'll leave that up to you to try it out, at least the free version, and see which one is the most user-friendly solution for you and your podcast. Now, in terms of promoting your podcast, there's a lot of tools that you can use. One of the things that I use, I've realized that video podcasts and video shorts is something that every podcaster needs to do and needs to have in their toolbox. Video podcasting and shorts especially is something that it can help get people's attention either on YouTube if you upload the shorts there, or you can upload the shorts onto Instagram or even Facebook as a reel. But through using shorts is a way that you can create short form content that you can use to help promote your podcast and introduce it to other people. Give people a taste of what they can expect through listening to your podcast. So if you don't use video right now or have any shorts for your podcast, I would encourage you to use some of these apps that I'm going to mention here. First of all, there's Headliner. Headliner has been around for a long time. It's really simple to use. They have a free version and they have a paid version, which gives you a lot more automation templates that you can use, where it can actually take your podcast, you set it up, and every time you release a new episode, it will scan it. It will take the best portion of it and create a short 1-minute clip for you to post on social media. It will email it to you and you can just take it, boom, post it on social media, and you're done. You post it on YouTube, post it on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Share it with your email list, everything. It's really simple to use. So this is Headliner. Now, the other tool that you can use is a tool called Video AI. It's spelled VIDYO.ai. And all of these things are mentioned on my cheat sheet. So you can go there and you can download the list of all of these tools. But again, this one is also, now there is a free version to this tool, but they do have a paid version that will unlock more features and more capabilities of their app. So what you do with this tool is you take your video and you upload it into video.ai, and it lets the processor runs and it finds the best 10 or 15 or however many clips that it can find. It gives them to you so you can read them. It gives you a suggested title. And it also gives you like a little score that tells you how well that clip will do when it comes to virality, how viral the clip will be, or how well it will be received by people on social media. So that I think is really useful because it ranks it, and you can use the title and the clip that they suggest and post that on social media. And with that tool, you can actually go in and edit the font or the template that you're using for that tool. So you don't have to just take it as they give it to you. You can edit it and export it, and then you have your social clip. So it's a little bit more work if you want to use that tool, but the paid version, you can set up your template and you just need to upload your video, and then it will run the template and run it according to your settings, your brand colors and everything like that. And then you have your shorts that they will send to you. You could just download them and then publish them on social media and use that in terms of promotion to get the word out there, to give people a short taste of what your podcast is about so that they can get more and download and listen to the full episode. Now, I'm thinking if there's any other tools or resources that I forgot, and I don't think that there is. But if you have come across any other tools or resources that you think are helpful for podcasters that you use for yours, please share it with me. Email me, send me a DM. My email is imappodcast@gmail.com, and I'll put it down in the description of this episode so you can reach out to me. But email me, message me on social media, and I would love to hear your suggestions of tools that you use for your podcast or processes that you use that are extremely useful for podcasters or for you. And I would love to hear from you of if there's anything that I missed. But I don't think that there is anything. But if I did miss anything, I will add it on maybe a part 2 for this episode and continue this conversation. But I hope that this encouraged you. Remember, a lot of these things that I talked about in this episode are free, and I've put a list of all of these tools and even more tools in my podcasting cheat sheet. So I'm going to encourage you to go into the description and download the cheat sheet so you can see all of these tools, all of these resources. And again, you can start to use these resources and start to see the benefit of some of these amazing AI tools and softwares that are out there without having to spend a dime. And that's my middle name. Get what you need without spending a dime. That's what I love. I love that. So anyways, that's it for this episode. I hope that this encouraged you and helped you to get a little bit better, a little bit more knowledge about podcasting and things that I use for my podcast and things that I've learned through speaking to other podcasters. Remember that this podcast is available on all of the major podcasting apps, so you can find it anywhere you go. Just search I Made a Podcast, and I've also placed links in the description for this podcast so you can go on and subscribe and go back and listen to any of the interviews that I've done. I may have already spoken to your favorite podcaster already and got some insight from them on how they create their podcast. So go back and listen to all of the past episodes that I've done. And remember that the best time to start a podcast was 10 years ago. And the second best time is right now. So go ahead and make it happen. And you'll hear from me next week on I Made a Podcast. Peace.